All right, well, Clam 101. We've washed and scrubbed these clams. That's very important. We also let them sit in a little bit of water so they've been able to purge a little bit of their dirt or mud. Most importantly, I've gone through every single one of these clams and done this. If you find one that is dramatically lighter, you know that's what's called a mudder. In other words, it doesn't have an animal inside it, it's just filled with mud. So I've got 4 cups of chicken broth, and I'm gonna pour it into my kettle here that I've suspended over the fire. I got a little sizzle when it went in there, so I'm pretty confident that I'm either at the right temperature or I can slide some of those logs perched on the edge of the fire to make it a little hotter. And I'm going to poach my clams in my broth. I want to show you while we're waiting for that how to actually open a clam. I always like to preach safety first with the glove. You can take any manner of opener. I happen to be a fan of basically a dull paring knife. So once I get my clam knife into my clam, I like to flip it over. You can see this abductor muscle right there. And all that it does is it holds the shell together. So I want to cut both sides of that. And then, just like an oyster, I can serve a beautiful shucked clam. Oh, salty, intensely flavored. That's a beautiful clam. So, the easiest thing when you're making chowder is to simply simmer your clams. We don't even need them to cook all the way. We just need them to open a little bit and put their juices out into that broth. And that, my friends, is the secret to a great chowder. That fresh clam juice is nothing like the bottled stuff. And so essentially we are creating our own fortified chicken broth with clam juice to use as the base of our chowder. I'm gonna let the intensity of clam flavor come from the clams. And now we turn our attention to the vegetables. We have our fennel. I like to take the root end off of there, cut these in half, and then I just treat them like an onion. All right, I have celery, I have onion, I have serrano chili, I've got carrot, these have been washed. I wanna create different interesting shapes in my chowder. This way I have nice half moons of carrots. Potato time. These are nice big Idaho bakers, and the first thing that I do is take a thin slice off of it so that my potato is flat on the table. Then I just make planks. Then I divide my potato into 2 stacks like cards because I have an opportunity to make a super friendly dice. Nice 1/4-inch squares. All of the clams are now at this point where technically, I used to do this as a kid and steal them out of the pot. You could eat them now, but you see all that liquid that's in there? That clear liquid is clam juice, and it came from me agitating the clam. I want all of that clam juice to release into that broth. When we come back, we'll be ready to strain this rich fortified broth and finish up the chowder. I want to toast a little bit of fennel seed and a little bit of celery seed. I'm actually going to toast some peppercorns while I'm at it because a toasted peppercorn ground is even tastier. And I need about, I don't know, 2 spoonfuls. I'm just gonna put them with my onions. The next thing I wanna do is I wanna make sure that my clam broth was nice and clean. So I have a bowl, I have a strainer, and I'm gonna pour that all in there. I'm gonna add these clams to my shucked raw clams and juice. So now I'm ready to strain my clams and start to build our chowder. And now you can see why I like to put the cheesecloth in there. Look at all that particulate. And you can see when I poured it out, even more sand. I mean, that's a good sign, super healthy clams. But by the same token, I don't want that in my soup. So, towel, and just pull all that up. So I just want to make sure this is all good, because it's going right back over the fire. I can hear the butter sizzling. And so let's start adding our veg. I'm just gonna use a little bit of that serrano. We can always add more later. We're just gonna keep adding stuff to that pot. So I always like to season at every step of the process, and I've actually seasoned with the pepper and the celery seed and the fennel seed. I'm gonna add a little bit of salt now. So my onions are glassy, everything is aromatic, and that's when I add my hot broth. I can tell from the fire I've put underneath here and the size of those bubbles that my vegetables are probably nicely cooked through, even though we're just at a simmering stage. But it's gonna come to a boil very, very fast. It's time to add our clams, and we're gonna let that simmer for 10, 15 minutes before we add our cream. So after a couple minutes, you can see that this has come to a simmer. Just give it a nice stir. Since that's gonna be ready to cream shortly, let's make sure we have our garnish ready. I have a little more serrano. I'm just gonna make a little bit of minced chive. I do wanna pull off some of these beautiful little fronds of fennel. I like to serve this with toast. Once I've done with the toast, I'll add my cream. Potatoes have a yielding quality to them, but they're not falling apart. And crunching into that fennel and celery is just an explosion of flavor. Wild cooking like this, foraged and found foods, are the secret to creating a sustainable food system for us all. And when it's this delicious, I mean, how easy is that?